Still, the central bank should continue leaning against the wind, but again, this is supposed to buy time for primarily fiscal consolidation. Fiscal policy should take the leading role.
My name is Emil Puhtic. Could you comment about the challenges of the Croatian structural reforms in terms of the shipyards, agriculture sector, food sector, and other all the industries presented in Croatia, and also compare the Croatian challenges with other new European countries, new Europe countries like Poland challenges, Poland shipyards, Poland textile, or Romania shipyards, and some leather and food industry in Romania. And also your point about the balancing monetary exchange policy with the fiscal policy, where you see the new improvements in this area, how to make this balance effective?
To reduce the role of the state in the economy. And one aspect of this is privatization. And here our emphasis has been in privatization of huge loss-making enterprises, including the shipyards. I mean, these are enterprises that the economic literature calls zombies, because the metaphor goes that these companies are sucking on the taxpayers' blood. These are companies that their state funds, state aid has been going to them year after year without a clear improvement in their finances. And indeed, I mean, the Croatian authorities have recognized the need of restructuring in the shipyard industry. And when I was here, I know that the restructuring plan was near a final stage. So I would expect that this will be one of the first tasks of the new government. In addition to the need to do this to save taxpayers' money and to help the fiscal consolidation process, this is an EU requirement. State aid in this sector and other sectors is against the state aid rules in the EU. And anyway, Croatia spends as a share of GDP about 3 times more than the EU average on state aid. So definitely this is an area that during the EU harmonization process will have to be addressed. So we are not supporting privatization for the sake of privatization. The state of the shipyard sector costs money to the budget, and it has done so without tangible improvement. So definitely something needs to be done, and privatization will be an element of the restructuring plan as the government has indicated. On the leaks of monetary and fiscal policy, the IMF has supported, in some emerging European economies, has supported fixed exchange rates, in some hard pegs, in others flexible exchange rates. What we say is that on the way, especially on the way to the euro area, there are many exchange rate regimes that can be used. But what is important is that the other macroeconomic policy should be consistent with a specific regime. In countries like Croatia, where you have a high level of euroization, there is not much choice, as I said earlier. But then fiscal policy should be consistent with this framework. Fiscal policy should take into account that it's a macroeconomic policy tool and should be consistent with the fixed exchange regime. So cooperation between monetary and fiscal authorities is always very important, but is even much more important in a fixed exchange rate regime.
Okay, we still have a couple of minutes time here.
I liked very much your comparison between Ireland and Portugal. I'm living in Portugal on part-time basis since '94, so I'm a kind of witness of the impressive increase of wealth and GDP in Portugal, but not convergence, as you shown quite well. I remember in the end of '90s when one ex-Portuguese prime minister was asked after a visit to Ireland why there is no such success in Portugal as there is in Ireland. His answer was, those poor Irish didn't build highways. Portugal is completely covered with highways, with bridges, with stadiums. The whole GDP growth during maybe 15 years, which ended in 2002 more or less, was based on construction. And now this bubble is being pierced, and it burst, and they're in a crisis. I wonder if a similar thing might be happening in Croatia also. Croatia is very much building its boom today on construction. Does it mean that we can expect maybe 10 years more of growth and then the same type of burst, or you think there is some very fundamental differences between Portuguese and Croatian model?
In Croatia, in the last 10 years, to a large extent, growth has been driven by the public sector. State enterprises, very large infrastructure investment, public sector investment, very high level of government spending, as I said earlier. And this is a model of growth that can work for a number of years, but it's not sustainable. And in the case of Croatia, it has built high external debt, high fiscal deficits until very recently, and countries that during this time they are also progressing with structural reforms to support private sector economic activity, then gradually the private sector can take over. So the question if Croatia will be Portugal or Ireland depends on the structural reforms. This is a country that and the role of FDI is also extremely important, because usually small economies, they grow very fast only if they can attract FDI. And this is a country that there is an interest by foreign investors. You don't have to attract this interest. They want to come to Croatia. They want to invest. Especially when I was here as a resident representative, I could see the moment that the EU negotiation started, there were so many delegations from investors coming here. And as an IMF Resident Rep, I will always meet and talk to them. They are interested to invest in Croatia. It's up to Croatia to make it easy for them to come to invest. There are a number of reforms in the right direction at the federal level. For example, been created the investment agency, the one-stop shop. These are all positive steps. But when I was here and we were talking to the private sector, many of them, not only foreigners but also domestic entrepreneurs, they were complaining about very untransparent and complicated bureaucracy at the local level. This is also extremely important. If it's difficult for the Croatian investor, imagine how difficult it is for a foreign investor.
The national microphone. Mr. Risner.
Yes. I spent 2 years on Columbia University before 30 years and more. And Mr. David Rockefeller made $29 billion in his period of 4 or 5 years. How many $1 million make MMF? I ask because in Croatia we have a lot of banks, and these banks are strange, and money is go out from Croatia, and production is zero. The workers are on the street. Switzerland and England have a best freedom because they have a money. Who makes mistake here in Croatia, please?
Okay. Tell you something, Dr. Vamvakidis admitted to me that he intentionally came after the election. So, go ahead.
Now you ask how much money the MMF. Actually, the IMF has run out of money, believe it or not. The way the IMF finances its activities is the following. I mean, the IMF is an international organization. All the countries in the world are members, except of North Korea and Cuba. And all the countries put together funds. So this is why it's International Monetary Fund. And every country has the right to borrow from this fund. This money do not belong to us, they belong to the countries. Now, from these loans, from the interest payments, part of it finances the IMF activities, the IMF operational budget. Now, we are running out of money because the world economy is doing very well recently, despite the financial market turbulence. Usually, I mean, we make money, it's like a bank when we lend money. But in recent years, we don't have any, we have very few programs. And most of the developing countries, because of high commodity prices and energy prices, they have repaid the IMF early. For example, Argentina, Brazil, Russia, they've all repaid us early. So we are in a situation that we don't have actually enough money, and the new managing director, Mr. Doministra,